Welcome back. I'm Christine McKellar. That's So Vegas, and I'm here with two very interesting and creative craftsmen. We have Anthony Gibson from Tenaya Creek Brewery and Joshua Walter from Sunrise Coffee on Sunset Road here in Las Vegas. We've been discussing an interesting collaboration with the two of them, which is beer and coffee. And we have here two jugs. I almost said bottles.
Growlers.
That's a jug.
What we
Pardon?
call growlers.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
My stomach's growling just because I have never had that before. I'm so excited about it. But we wanted to talk again a little bit more. You were mentioning that craft beer really isn't so much some kind of trendy thing. It's really become a way of life. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
It really has become a way of life. The way that we look at it, and we talk amongst ourselves at the brewery and other brewers, is that the people growing up now, when they turn 21, they're choosing to try craft beers before they'll try any of the mass-produced beers, and that's kind of all they know. And there's such a wide range of flavors in craft beers nowadays, whether it's a traditional style pilsner, or if it's beer infused with coffee, chocolate, fruits, you name it. Anything goes really in today's craft beer business.
An interesting thing, again, I know I sound like I'm fixated on the coffee beer, but that too would go well with chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and desserts and stuff like that. So, Josh.
Coffee goes well with chocolate, too.
Coffee. Let's bounce to you for a minute here. Again, you were talking earlier about how passionate you and Wani and the family are about the sustainability of your coffee. And you also have food. I mean, you just started with coffee, if I recall correctly, and then you branched out into breakfast and croissants and things of that
Sure.
nature?
I think part of what we wanted to do was have an option for vegetarianism.
Oh, quite.
So
you have vegan mayo, too, I know.
Yeah, so we have vegetarian and vegan sort of light, hearted options that are not really, it's not really, designated as a restaurant or a coffee shop. And, you should be able to get certain things, I think.
Well, I understand Michelle Obama thinks it's a little bit more than just a coffee shop. Didn't she stop in there 2 years ago when she was in Vegas?
Yeah, she did stop in. It was kind of interesting.
Tell me that story. Didn't she say to her driver something, where's the best coffee in town? And he whisked her over to Sunrise Coffee?
Something like that.
Something
I don't know.
like
I don't really know what drove her into the shop, but it was kind of interesting to see how the security they basically locked in the people in the tattoo shop and said you can't come out.
Well, yeah, there's that.
But it was actually very cool. I mean, we weren't there for that. We were out of town, but I think it was really fun for our customers and for our baristas that were there to kind of see the first lady and all that.
And the staff handled it well, didn't they? But
Yeah.
they handle everything well. I just love that place. I take a lot of entertainers at interview, as you know. That's if I have to meet somebody, that's where I want to meet. So both of you, again, you have a passion for it's artisan. You're artists in your own right. And did you, when he approached you, did like a coffee bean pop into mind, or did you just because the tannins, and you're a beer drinker.
Sure.
We've had a cold year too before. Did something just like resonate, or
Well, I was actually really curious about how they were going to do it.
Me too.
I don't think it's sometimes just as simple as throwing some coffee in there and hoping it comes out good, because we know that to brew coffee appropriately there's a chain that happens. The coffee has to be sourced from the right places. It's got to be roasted right, and it has to be brewed right. And if it's not brewed right, it doesn't matter how good your coffee is. You're kind of up a creek without a paddle.
Tenaya Creek without a paddle, no. But so you've invested a lot in state-of-the-art equipment.
Sure.
As have you, I know. I've seen,
And I think that, if people, were more curious about it, they'd see that it's not super complicated. But there is some precision in mind, and with coffee or beer or anything, or even roasting, which we, focus on, there are variables, and it is scientific, and that's where sort of the craft meets, the
chemistry.
Exactly. Every time we brew a pot of coffee or make an espresso, it's a chemistry experiment, and there's variables, and we want to know that they're all correct before we serve to somebody. And that was the fun conversation that we had was, well, how are you going to brew it? Because I can give you this coffee, but we can select the ones that you like, but how's it going to go in, and how's it going to impact the beer?
The hops.
Product. Yeah.
And how did you react to that?
Well, as we sat down and talked about the different beans that were available, and then also, as Josh just mentioned, the different ways to brew it, and it seemed like the consensus was a cold toddy, so like an overnight steep, basically.
Oh.
So it doesn't make it too astringent. Is that
Yeah.
the right word? You know, so that way it doesn't pull out too much of that acidity. You know,
Tannin.
because
It's- yeah.
we want that balance. You know, and then you know we have to choose a certain beer also. At least in my mind, choose a beer that complements the coffee itself. We made other beers where we use coffee and say like a lighter beer. Coffee, it still tastes good, but it's just like a one-sided beer at that
Interesting.
point. So still drinkable, still tastes good, but it's just, you know, when we make a beer like this beer that we have here is an oatmeal stout, so it already has like
Wow.
roasted flavors to it. It's brewed with about 20% oats, so it's got a creamy texture on the mouth. So.
Interesting, cream and coffee. It's the only way I like my coffee. Not like my men, ha ha ha. But so yeah. Then so the two of you got together, and again, and you've been going there to Sunrise Coffee for quite a while.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but speaking of which as well, and here's a progression of time from when we met, and even from when we met, you're opening a new brewery, are you not?
Correct.
Down on Bonanza.
Yep.
You're-
Yep. 831 West Bonanza, so just down the street from the Review Journal.
Are you moving everything to that, or just opening a second location?
Both locations will be open
Great.
for the meantime, and then eventually everything will transition to the Bonanza location.
Okay.
Just because with our current location on Tenaya, as you've seen it,
Yes.
very small, very tight quarters in the back. So with our distribution outside of the state and even to Canada, we just needed more space.
Boy, you have expanded since even 5, years ago. It's crazy.
You know, we definitely
really-
have got a good name for ourselves, not only locally but outside the state. So it's exciting to be a part of any growth at all.
Right.
Never mind the large step that our company has taken right now to purchase a building down there. It's a cool building. It was built in '54. Nice
good year.
redwood Botros ceilings in the back and everything, so we try to keep that as original as possible.
There should be some pictures on the bottom of your screen, viewers. And then, Josh, you've expanded with the opening of the Mothership.
Yeah, Mothership
Coffee Roasters.
Yeah.
It's up by Trader Joe's here. And again, I'm so happy to have something on my side of town. Everything cool is on the other side of town, but you're going to be more accessible. So,
We will be closer.
and again, this was an extension of your passion for craftsmanship and the sustainability thing. This is more like a sipping place, though, isn't it? It's not go sit down like you do at Sunrise Coffee. It's
Yeah, the atmosphere is it's a bit of a smaller shop. I mean, its primary focus is coffee roasting. When we started Mothership, 4 years ago, we did it in the back of Sunrise Coffee in the kitchen. And we were just doing it for ourselves at first, for our own production and for our own experiments. And then people started asking for it, businesses started asking for it, and it kind of grew into its own program. And it came to the point where we were just didn't have enough space there. So Mothership, the facility, is really logistics. It's mostly coffee roasting. So
you have some samplings in there. Which is
it's
nice.
but we also decided to try to make it multifunctional. So we did put a coffee bar in there with a limited, more classic style.
I love it, and it seems European to me.
Yeah,
I
and
kind of like
there
it. It's
isn't-
a different.
there isn't sizes. It's basically a craft coffee bar and
Right, you
and,
stand up at the round and sip, and you can pick a selection, and it's if you want to go sit down and Wi-Fi and all that, I would suggest Sunrise.
I think the atmosphere is a bit more conducive at Sunrise for
Yeah.
cafe, for coffee shop.
Right.
Mothership is more of an espresso bar, and we designed it with the intention of being able to use it as a platform for training. So, when you go into Mothership, you'll see the tables are certain design. They're cupping tables. We put them together, and before shifts and after the shops close, we go out there and evaluate coffees. We use it as an environment to do that. Yeah.
Well, one question just popped into my brain with you being exposed to all that caffeine and coffee, and you're exposed to all that beer. How come you guys aren't like this? The caffeine and alcohol shakes.
It's some moderation.
I guess so. Because
everything.
I have my 3 cups in the morning, and look at me, I'm like all pumped up here. But we're gonna. Speaking of which, we're getting closer to popping these, and I'm so excited because I just love the idea of coffee beer, and I've never been able to taste it because it's seasonal. So after this break, we're going to come back and we'll sample that and let you all know what we think about it, or what I think about it. Again, this segment, the show, is sponsored by the Red Roof Inn. It's close to the airport, convenient to the Strip, and they are pet friendly. We'll be right back, and we'll be sipping.